Yeah. All right. Well, we just want to say officially to welcome everyone. We're really glad you're here tonight for our workshop, and it's entitled "New Year, New Season: Why Unresolved Grief Keeps You Stuck and How You Can Heal." And so we're really excited to spend some time with you here tonight. Whether you came because you're tired or hopeful or curious or just a little desperate for something to finally be different, we're 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 here for you, and this is a place for you here. So before we begin, I just want to take a moment to honor you for showing up. Conversations about grief, loss, and transition are not always easy. It takes courage to pause and face the deeper things of the heart. And we would just, appreciate you just sharing with us in the chat wherever you happen to be zooming from, and officially welcome. So, a little bit about tonight. This is going to be part teaching, part reflection. I encourage you to take notes, grab a journal if you have one handy, and most of all, just be willing to be honest with yourself tonight. And before we dive into all this, there are a few things we want to highlight to help you get the most out of our time together. This webinar will be about 90 minutes, the last 30 minutes of which will be set aside for questions. And we love questions, we really do. Also, we would love to see you and connect. So if it is at all possible, I know sometimes you're eating or something's going on, but if at all possible, please have your camera on. We would love to connect with you. And lastly, feel free to interact with us in the chat. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat as well. And then at the end, when we're in our Q&A time, we will definitely and absolutely address those.
I don't see the thing. Can you send me the snapshot?
I'm
Okay.
sorry?
Nope, go ahead.
Oh,
That was just somebody background.
okay. I just want to make sure that maybe there was a question. So, all right. So tonight, we're obviously going to be talking about entering a new year and a new season. And from our years of experience with grief and loss and transition, we're going to suggest to you that you can't fully step into a new season while you're still carrying the emotional weight of the last one. A new season doesn't, just automatically begin just because the date changed. However, it can begin in a healthy way when the heart is willing to lay down what it's been carrying. So tonight, we are going to go deeper into how to experience exactly that.
Yes. So January is a strange month, isn't it? It kind of can
Yeah.
come with a lot of hope, fresh starts, new intentions, and maybe even that quiet whisper that this year will be different. And at the same time, for a lot of us, it can bring up something else, kind of like a tiredness. Maybe tired of making promises to yourself, tired of repeating the same cycles, and tired of quietly wondering, what if I really can't change?
Mm.
And a lot of times we don't say that part out loud, but we can feel it. And maybe you experienced a major loss this last year, one that has you feeling like you don't even know how to face a new year at all. And so sometimes standing at a threshold is often where grief shows up. It's where we begin to wrestle with questions like, who am I now?
Yeah.
What do I hold on to? What do I let go of? And so being in that space can feel disorienting, especially when we really want to step forward in a way that feels healed, grounded, and true.
Yeah, when we're standing at the edge of a new season, there's usually a quiet pressure that comes with it. There's this sense that we should just be, doing better by now, right? We should be stronger or braver or more together or fill in the blank. Many of us were taught that change comes from trying harder, from being more disciplined, for having more willpower, that somehow we should be giving more effort. But here's what life eventually teaches us: some things don't move because we push harder. They move because something deeper is finally given a voice.
Yes, and I want to share for a moment why this matters so much to us. We're here because we both know what it's like to stand on the edge of a new season and realize we're carrying more than we thought. And when you experience this kind of healing, you can't help but want it for other people. So both Dan and I have deeply had life-changing experiences through this work. And we could say that it's touched every relationship in our lives, and especially our marriage, I would say.
Yeah.
And along the way, we have discovered that grief, all the grief recovery work that we've done, and we still do, by the way, these are tools that we use and we use them often. This has definitely been one of the most powerful tools for healing in our own lives. No question about
Yeah.
it. And it's not because it fixes everything, but because it helps you get to the root of what's been carried. And from there, it opens a door to a completely different way of really showing up in your life, showing up more present, more whole, and more at peace. And
Mhm.
that is why we are here. We aren't here to tell anybody to try harder.
Yeah.
We believe that people deserve a way to lay down what they've been carrying and step into a new season feeling lighter, freer, and more whole.
Yeah. I think most of us find ourselves standing at the edge of a new season probably a lot more often than we realize. And sometimes we choose it, and sometimes it's chosen for us. But every new season, every new beginning comes with something that's ending. And here's what we've learned: if we don't acknowledge and address that, it doesn't disappear, it comes with us. And that's often why people feel stuck or unsettled or just emotionally heavier than they expected to, even when they're moving towards something good. And honestly, this is totally normal. That's
Yeah.
because every fresh start still requires that we let go. And we don't just grieve what's painful, we also grieve what is and was familiar. Even when change is right, it still means saying goodbye to something that we've known. But when we're honest about what's ending and when we give it the care it deserves, then we're able to step into what's next with a lot more clarity, freedom, and peace. And if we don't do this, we don't really start the new season. We just bring the old one with us. So, as you think about the season that you're stepping into, right, just take a minute, settle with this question. Um, what might your heart still be carrying from what's ending or has already ended? And just take a moment to think about this. Maybe try to name this. If you would like to, feel free to share it in the chat, or at the very least, just think about it. Just consider it. Take a moment, pause, just let it settle. See if anything comes up, and if anything doesn't, that's fine. But it's just a very good question to take in and give some time to.
Yeah, for sure. So, this is something that we've seen again and again in our years of walking with people through healing.
Yeah,
The problem isn't your willpower, it's your unresolved grief. And when we say grief, we don't just mean death or divorce, we mean any loss.
yeah,
Relationships that have changed or ended, childhoods that weren't what you needed, dreams that didn't happen, disappointments that maybe were never resolved. Wounds, any wounds that are connected to health, safety, trust, or identity, all of those things, seasons of life of your life that have ended incomplete, right? Grief doesn't disappear when it's ignored. It goes underground. And when it goes underground, it starts showing up in other ways.
yeah, definitely. And the thing that's interesting is that unresolved grief doesn't just hurt. It actually drives patterns: numbing, overworking, people pleasing, control, food, substances, unhealthy relationships, emotional and spiritual exhaustion. And I want to say something really important here. And please hear me on this. These are not character flaws. They are coping strategies.
Yeah.
We don't repeat patterns because we're weak. We repeat them because something in us is still trying to survive. So there's a part of you that learned a long time ago how to get through something hard, and it's been doing its job ever since, even if the strategy is no longer serving
Yeah. So imagine for a moment stepping into a new chapter. And we know that when we do that, growth doesn't come free.
you. No,
It costs us
no.
something. Sometimes our comfort, sometimes it's our old identities, sometimes it's relationships. And if we think of it like this, growth always requires exchange. And that's interesting to think about. And when we step into something new, we release things that we thought defined us sometimes. Sometimes our roles change, and that's hard to process. Our identities, our relationships change, and these can feel costly. It can be so painful.
Yeah,
And it's also important to know that it is part of transformation. And so when we are able to process these transitions, we learn to grieve honestly, naming what we've lost, honoring our emotions, then we open the door for genuine healing. And I love this visual to think about. Grief actually becomes a bridge and not a barrier.
mm,
And it's also important to understand that these transitions we're talking about, they're not just hurdles to get over, right? They can be invitations to deepen trust, sometimes to rediscover purpose, and to embrace a future that feels freer and maybe even lighter.
yeah, yeah. Every transition requires completion. That's a given. And as we noted earlier, a new season doesn't begin just because the calendar says so. It begins when something lost is finally allowed to be named. So to be really clear, completion is not, quote, forgetting or minimizing or getting over it. Um, Instead, completion is really being able to remember the pain driving your um, well, I should back up. Completion is basically it's more remembering without the pain driving your life anymore, right? So that the pain isn't the activating force in your life any longer. And here's the good news. What's unfinished can be completed, and what's been carried can be laid down.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to think who we are
Yeah,
without it.
yeah, it really is.
And as we've been talking about, transitions are never just about what we're stepping into. It's also what we're letting go of.
Yeah,
And the problem is that most of us were never taught how to grieve those endings in a healthy way. I know before I found this process, I never even knew grieving was a thing. I
yeah,
never knew it was something I needed to do. I pretty much spent my life avoiding all of that at all
yeah,
costs. And so that's what happens is we either try to ignore the pain or minimize it or just move on. And many of us were taught to do that, right? Just to kind of buckle
yeah,
up and keep going. But truthfully, growth and freedom happen when we make peace with what we've lost.
yeah,
And sometimes when we aren't even aware that this is a possibility, we don't even give ourselves permission to feel things. And because our culture bombards us really with messages like this, and I'm sure you've heard these, raise your hand if you have. You got to stay busy. You got to be strong. You got to keep moving. Yes, Deanna, thank you. Yes. So all of those things, when we do those things, the grief doesn't go away. It just finds other ways to show up. What Dan was saying earlier, and we do this, a big way is in self-sabotaging behaviors. So we can avoid opportunities. We stay playing small. We can even blow up our relationships. Relationships that they tend to be not harmonious, right? We
mhm,
can carry emotional heaviness into new seasons, which prevents us from fully embracing it. And it can also show up in our bodies through stress, fatigue, or even illness. Grief has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if we don't take care of our grief, it will take care of us. It will stop you in your tracks, definitely. I have definitely had that happen. Your body will override and it will stop you in your tracks. And we will continue dragging the weight of our past into our future. And that's really what keeps us stuck in these patterns. And we don't even realize that these patterns that we're talking about are connected to our losses. And so it's in
Yeah.
healing those that we get to change the patterns, like true change.
Yeah. And that's the good news, right? The good news is healing is possible. Everything we just described isn't a condition that you have to find a way to grit your teeth and endure. There's actually healing that's possible.
Yeah.
And really healing, by the way, doesn't mean forgetting. Okay. Healing doesn't mean you stop missing what was. Healing simply means becoming emotionally complete with it so that you step into the next season without carrying that heaviness of the last. And to be really clear, we are not saying you just have to move on. But what we are saying is there are tools. There are tools that will help you with that in between part. And that's what's available.
Yeah. So we love to talk about this process, and we love to do that because we know how powerful it is. And there are three keys to navigating transitions in a healthy way. Step one is an honest acknowledgement. Step two, choose intentional completion. Oh, sorry. Step two is allow space to grieve. Allow space to grieve. Sorry about that. Step three is choose intentional completion. And you don't need to become someone new. It's not like you have to rediscover, right? You
Yeah,
just need to remember who you really are beneath the pain. Because when you embrace this process, you become free to step into what's next with an open heart, to
yeah,
receive it, right?
yeah. And that's powerful. So, step one, honest acknowledgement. What we mean by this is you have to name the loss. You have to say out loud what changed, what you miss, what you wish had been different, better, or more, your lost hopes, dreams, and expectations. We're putting words to those things, right? Step two is allowing space to grieve. And what we mean by this is giving yourself permission to feel it. It is okay to hold both the gratitude for what was as well as the ache of it being gone. And
Yeah.
step three, choose intentional completion. This is where recovery comes in because we don't just get over it. We take specific, intentional steps to become emotionally complete, to say the unsaid, to let go of the unfinished, and to bring completion to the loss.
And I love this slide because when we're talking about a new year and we're talking about all the possibility of a new year,
Yeah,
we know the connection because when people do this work, we're not talking about becoming perfect.
yeah,
But imagine becoming less reactive. Imagine becoming less triggered by things. And in that, you can experience greater clarity.
yeah,
You can become more present and more peaceful. And you can gain the ability to choose, excuse me, how to respond to people and events. So you can change your patterns of self-sabotage. Sometimes we don't realize, like we said before, that grief is underneath the things that we're triggered
mhm,
by. And
yeah,
unresolved grief is what keeps us in that state of being triggered. And so, if you imagine for a moment walking into this year without bringing last year's emotional weight with you, so you'd be
mhm,
responding instead of reacting and living instead of just surviving. And we're talking about like emotionally
yeah,
surviving, right?
yeah, exactly.
Idea.
Yeah,
And so, like we said in the beginning, you can't enter fully into a new season without getting emotionally complete with the one you are leaving behind. And the
Mhm.
truth is, we can't experience strong, healthy relationships while carrying the weight of unresolved grief. We can't.
Yeah.
And this is why everything begins by finding freedom from the pain of grief, trauma, and loss in order to have the freedom to experience your life and relationships to the full.
Yeah. And that's really where the magic happens in that space because healing is really a journey. It's not a destination, you know, like the cliche says. And yours doesn't end here, right? The grief recovery method is a structured, compassionate roadmap to help you process buried sorrow, to help you reclaim your full self. And through guided steps, caring support, curated resources, you will learn how to honor each loss, to speak the grief you have been unable to say, and to experience real emotional renewal and self integration. And this is not a path that is meant to be walked alone. And that's why we're committed to offering the encouragement and practical tools that you need, walking every step with you, celebrating each breakthrough as you move towards the promise of wholeness. The grief recovery method, just so you know, is the only evidence based program designed to help you get emotionally complete with losses of every kind. Not to forget or get over them, you know, quote unquote, but to really experience freedom. So, whatever you are navigating in your life at this moment, this process gives you the clarity, peace, and resilience to step into your next season. And so, if tonight has stirred something in you, if you recognize yourself in this in between, then we invite you to take the next step with us.
So, this is the sign you've been looking for. I love that. So, this program consists of 8 weeks. It's 8 weeks, and you'll be amazed at what happens in 8 weeks. We meet for 90-minute sessions, an hour and a half. We meet weekly on Zoom, and we walk you through. We use the Grief Recovery Handbook, and this little book packs a punch, let me tell you. It is so powerful. It helps heal old wounds. We will challenge limiting beliefs that help you really embrace your next chapter. And we've mentioned this, but we walk completely through this with you. You are never alone. We
Yeah.
even offer ongoing support in between each session. You can access us with any questions that you have. And if you are an alumni, if you've done grief recovery before, whether it was a month ago or years ago, we want to welcome you back and to encourage you to sign up for alumni sessions because these tools they will keep working for you. And the more you do, the deeper you go, the more healing you will experience. I promise you. I want to help
Yeah.
you keep the momentum going. And so we always like to mention this when you consider everything that's at stake. We're talking about you, your emotional health, your physical health, your general happiness, all of your relationships. This will help all of your relationships grow and become deeper. And you begin to see just how valuable this program really is. We have personally spent years and literally thousands of dollars on therapy, self-help books, seminars, programs, and we never experienced the transformation that the grief recovery method gave us each.
Yeah.
That's why we both felt so strongly as soon as we experienced it, we need to do this. We need to
Yeah.
help people experience this. And we did. We've been doing it for 20, I think 2 years now. And we are just as excited about it today as we were when we first experienced it because that's how powerful it is. So, the real world value of this program is incredible. And we want you to experience that for yourself.
Yeah. You know, if something in you knows this is the year, this is the year you want to stop carrying so much alone, then we would love to invite you into a next step. We are offering a complimentary conversation. This is a no pressure space for you to be heard, to talk about whatever feels unfinished, and then explore whatever support might look like for you. Before we show you how to book a call with us, though, we want to see something really important. Some of you are here tonight because a grief recovery specialist you know and trust invited you here. And if that's you, we want to honor that relationship. So please reach back out to them. Let them know what stirred in you tonight. They would love to walk with you through this next step. And if you found your way here directly through us, well, then we would absolutely be honored to have that conversation with you ourselves.
Yes, so let's look at the total value of this program and what you get. So we offer a free 30-minute call with either Dan or myself. It's 8 weeks. It's a 90-minute one-on-one, so it's an hour and a half of coaching. The Zoom calls are, and in between that are on, we do ongoing support, and it's all valued at $1,200. So it breaks down $1,200 over those 8 weeks. But we want to give you something special to thank you for joining us tonight on this webinar.
Mhm.
If you are ready to book a 30-minute call, we would love to give you $100 off, $100 off the price of the program. And we would love just to hear your story. During our consultation call, we can explore how we can support you. We can answer any questions and we can show you how the grief recovery method can meet you right where you are. Because if you're ready, we will create a personal roadmap for your healing journey. No question about it. And if you are an alumni, we encourage you to make a call as well. Book a consultation call with us because there's even more healing and growth waiting for you as you do more grief recovery work.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, this program is unlike for us anything we have ever experienced. As we've said, grief recovery, it's a step-by-step action program. You're fully supported at all times. We will never ask you to do anything that we don't do first. And you will be amazed at how much transformation happens in just 90 minutes a week for 8 weeks. Every session builds on the next as it's kind of uncovering and healing a lot more than you can even imagine right now. And literally, the only resource for the 8 week program is the Grief Recovery Handbook, which is included and is backed by more than 40 years of research. In fact, this program is considered the gold standard in recovery from grief and loss.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with this. I want to speak this over you. You are not behind. You are not broken, and you are definitely not failing at life. You are standing on the threshold of a brand new season that's filled with possibility, hope, and healing like you've never experienced. So now is the time to begin and imagine what that could look like if you had the tools to release any pain that weighs you down, which will give you space to dream again,
Mm.
space to hope again, and have that. And we'd love to invite you to take that step and book a free call. So we will put the Calendly link in the chat, which I should have done that before. I will try to figure that out. But we will also send you an email, and that will include a link. It will also include the replay from tonight, so you can watch if you missed anything or want to go back. And so we would love to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah. So kind of before we close tonight, um, we said we wanted to set aside time for questions, and I wasn't kidding. We love questions. We are happy to answer any and all questions that you have. Those questions might be about something that perhaps we've shared this evening. These ideas might just be about something in your own season of transition or about the process of grief recovery. Whatever it is, we're here for you. And we just want to say there are no small or unimportant questions. If it's on your heart, then it matters. So feel free to drop a question in the chat, or if you feel more comfortable, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to share. Like I said, we will stay on as long as we need to make sure every question is answered. There will no be, oh, well, we've already hit our thing. We're going to cut. No, it's going to be every last question that you guys have. We will stay on and answer everything that you guys have. So I will turn that over to y'all.
Yes, if you have any, don't be shy. Monique, thank you for your chats over here, and welcome everybody from wherever you are.
I guess I'll ask a quick question, Vicky
Mhm.
and Dan, and I'm sure
Mhm.
it varies a lot, but it's 8 sessions. How early do you begin to see people kind of starting to get like breakthroughs in their process?
Great
That is a good
question.
question. Yeah.
I would love to jump on that, and then Dan,
Go
whatever
ahead.
you think. But I have found that when we work with someone one-on-one, we get them the book, and before we meet for our first session, we read the first 5 chapters. So you'll do that before. The first 5 chapters talk about myths about grief and loss and about different things. And almost every person, when we get on that first call, they say, I can't believe how understood I feel and how much hope I have.
Yeah.
So in one sense, even at the very beginning like that, we have seen that and heard that often, like really often. And I think that really the first couple weeks we look at myths and we look at ways that you were taught how to grieve. Like how did that look in your home growing up? How were feelings and emotions handled? Did you grow up in a home where you were told if you're going to cry, go to your room kind of thing? Or if there was abuse, if there was alcoholism, like the gamut, right? You might have learned that emotions weren't okay. They weren't allowed, different things. So we look at that. And then by about between weeks 2 and 3, we start going in even deeper. And so I would say definitely in those first few weeks, you start to see a big shift.
Yeah. And honestly, I've had clients where we're like in week 4 and they're like, uh, I'm not sure if this is really working. I mean, I'm in it this far, so I guess I'll keep going, but I don't know. And then the week after that, or a couple weeks after that, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's just so there is a sense in which it definitely hits people differently.
Yeah.
Um, I'm even myself, like the second I had this amazing transformation when I worked through my relationship with my mom, and then I did my relationship with my dad. I'm like, wow, maybe this program doesn't work. I don't know. Like I had this whole thing like, and then it wasn't until a couple months afterwards that I realized how much had shifted. Without getting all into the weeds, but it had a lot to do with my anger. And all of a sudden I realized all this anger that I used to carry, it was like gone. It was just wasn't there. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, and then I got like sad
Mhm.
by the way. But I mean, so it kind of shows up differently. But if you put your heart into this program, the changes and the transformation are going to show up in your life. No
Okay,
matter when you experience them, they will show up. Absolutely.
great. Thank you both.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question.
Here is a question. Is
Mhm.
there a way of identifying the seasons when it all feels like embracing a new normal? Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I'll let you go. What would you say, Dan? Is there a way of identifying the seasons when it all feels like embracing a new normal?
Well, I think, you know, um, in some ways, we're always doing that. I mean, I think just as human beings, if we let ourselves, we're always learning something new. We're always growing, we're always changing. So it's sort of like a process that's ongoing. If we let it, I think it takes more effort to hold that back than it does to just actually let the transformation take place. But there's a lot of mental gymnastics in there because we're so afraid of that transformation that we'll stop ourselves from doing what's necessary to really step into the change that we all want to have, but might be fearful of getting into. So, as far as there being signs, I think it's just when you finally kind of get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you just sort of know, I want something to be different. I want something to be different. And everybody reaches that point at a different season in their life, you know. But I think if that's popping up, if that kind of feeling keeps bubbling up to the surface, then it's a good sign that, yeah, it's go time, you know.
Yeah, and I think that identifying a new season is something that like we're talking about this particular tonight, we're talking about moving into a new year. And it is a time on the calendar, right? So we're literally all collectively moving into a new year, which is a new season. And so, but then we have seasons of life, we have losses, or we have seasons that we go through, like our daughter, we're in that season of our daughter moving out and going to college. Now she's been away now for a couple years, so we're in it and we're getting a little more comfortable with it. But
A
those
little
things
bit.
are huge. Yeah, they're huge shifts and embracing even a new identity or like you said, a new normal. I love that. The new normal is different. And when
Mhm.
you get to verbalize and connect to the things that you're leaving or losing or it's ending, it's amazing how you're able to embrace. One of the things that I can say that was huge for me was when we moved from California to Texas. It was a big thing. We moved in 2013, and both Dan and I lived and grew up in California, and our my whole world was there. I had clients there. We had a church there we were a part of. We had my mom, my parents were there. And so leaving felt like cutting off my arms, literally. Like I could not fathom moving. And Dan could not fathom staying. We were at an impasse big time. I mean, like we couldn't talk about it for years because it would create an argument. And we each couldn't really hear where the other one was coming from. Like, because literally I remember la la la, like I don't want to talk about it. And it was so overwhelming for me. And
Yeah.
I remember a really good friend of mine who's also a grief recovery specialist said, you could graph like your house. And it wasn't about my house, but it was about my life in California, in there. And I sort of, this is like advanced alumni work, but you can use the tools to graph places, times of your life. Like I was able to graph those 11 years when we got married, when we had our daughter, where we lived, and we had that part of our life. And it was so powerful that I really realized that me getting emotionally complete with this season of my life, this part of my life, I was able to 100% embrace moving here. And it was crazy. It was hard. It was painful. When we first moved here, we did not have a job. It was very much a step on faith. And there were a lot of tears and a lot of fear, but inside I had this like knowing from being complete, I was so ready to embrace this move. It was amazing. And it was something that was so bonding for us
Mhm.
also because we literally were like, we're in this together. And I know I couldn't have done it if I hadn't have done that work of grief recovery to really get complete. And it doesn't mean that I didn't miss home or
Yeah.
didn't miss my parents or all that, but man, it was so powerful. And I've used the tools for many things, from relationships to changes of life like that. One of the little freebies that we'll give you tonight um, is when you're processing something to write down, what do I wish could be different, better, or more?
Mhm.
And just thinking about that, like even in the move, like what do I wish could be different or better or more? Like I wish we didn't have to move. I wish we didn't have to, like whatever it is, write it down because what you're doing is you're processing and you're connecting to your emotional truth about what's actually in there. And
Yeah.
then you're able to process and using other tools. But yeah, it's very, very valuable to to recognize these different seasons that we're in and
Mhm.
changing them. And it might be a divorce, it might be a death of somebody that you've lost. It could be a move, it could be many things. Like we say, there are over 40 events that you're going to experience in a lifetime that
Yeah.
are grief, that are the end of a familiar pattern of behavior.
That's even a big reason why we do these webinars is to
Yeah.
just kind of create an awareness because you talk to most people and they think death and divorce and everything else is just like, and then it's not even a category that they operate in. And so, in reality, there's, like Vicky said, there's more than 40 different kinds of losses that we'll experience in a lifetime. And I think it's just, there's a certain amount of comfort that just comes from being able to name it
Yeah.
instead of feeling like, oh gosh, what's wrong with me? Or how come I can't get over this? Or what's, my deal? Or I should be doing, like we said earlier, I should be doing better. We have all these things we tell ourselves, and it's kind of like, really? Based on what? Like if we haven't, these are all normal, natural things. If something bad happens, it's normal and natural to feel bad about it, to hurt about it. I mean, like who says you're just supposed to like there's as an arbitrary amount of time and then you're supposed to be over it, you know? So, anyways,
And Keith, great question. What do you mean by graph? Yes, that's a good
yes.
question.
So there is in the process, we do a couple of different kinds of graphs. The first graph is a loss history graph. And that's where you're going to take a look at every single loss from your dawn of conscious memory to your current present right now. And then on the when the lines that you use to identify the loss, the length of the line indicates how intense the experience was. And what's even more interesting about this is going into how intense was that experience at the time it happened. Not you and your adult mind and all the sophistication and nuance that adults put on things, but like at the time it happened, how intense was the pain connected to that event? And so you're kind of graphing it all out. And it's a very powerful process because our brains, mercifully, will compartmentalize things that are hard for us so that we can remain functional, right? And it just sort of puts it in a compartment, right? And that's all well and fine, except those compartments don't go away. And so, one of the things that people oftentimes, their first revelation is looking at all of their loss all at once, all at the same time, all in the same space because now all the compartments have been, unlocked and opened and their contents emptied onto this graph. And people go, and it's quite the experience, right? So then the second graph that we do is we use that first graph to sort of hopefully identify a pocket of pain, right, around a particular relationship. And usually, in most cases, that relationship tends to be one of our caregivers, mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, whoever raised us, basically, right? Whoever, our caregivers. And and then we specifically graph that relationship. And on that graph, we're putting every event in that we can remember in that relationship positive and negative. And again, the length of the line indicates the intensity of the experience. So if it was a really good experience, it gets a long line above the line. If it was a really painful experience, it gets a long line below the line. And you're just mapping out in that relationship um, these events. And what's really powerful about that is especially when it's somebody that has either passed on or is still around, but we maybe have a difficult relationship with them. A lot of times, um, it's very hard because we tend to fall into one and two categories. We tend to go into where we elevate and pedestalize this person into virtual perfection, or we demonize that person and they were like Hitler. And so the truth of the matter is that there are some things that are above and some things that are below on that line. And that's part of one of the things that we do is why honesty is so critical to this process, because we have to be willing to honestly look at the good in a relationship that might have been very, very painful for us. So that's kind of an explanation. There's a lot more to it, but I'm trying to like nutshell it a bit.
I think
Um,
you said a lot. You gave a lot there. Yes, there's a lot. The graphing, and I love, Brenda, what you wrote. The graphing helped me identify that there were walls in front of my barriers. That's
mm,
very
oh wow.
powerful. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a great
absolutely.
observation.
Yeah, the graphing is, and we do this step by step. Each week builds. So it's not like something we jump into right away.
Exactly.
We're
Yeah.
not jumping into the deep end like that, but it
Yeah.
is a very powerful tool that we use. And then you have the tools once you're done with the grief recovery process to work on more relationships and more situations. So
Yeah.
it is amazing. These tools will take with them and you'll have them forever.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah, really, really good question. Here is a question. Why bring up the past when I just want to move forward? That is a great question. And a lot of times people um, will feel that way, right? I've been, not dealing with this my whole life. That's how I'm surviving.
Yeah.
Why do I want to bring that up? And even people will ask, why are you going in the past? And I think that, in a lot of times in therapy, especially talk therapy, there's a lot of talk about things and ruminating on things. And I honestly don't think that that's very helpful. Sometimes it can be if it's guided. And this is all guided. We go into the past, so to speak, we do graphs and we do deal with these things. It's so guided. And what we're doing is we're giving you a voice in it. And it's so powerful because you really can't move forward without healing those things. And so this is a way that, and I mean to tell you, you will be amazed in 8 weeks what we do and how you're able to process that. But it's very, very,
Yeah.
very powerful. Yes. But it's a
Yeah,
great.
I think that you know, let's be honest. I mean, does anybody like, oh yeah, no, I love thinking about really super painful things that happen in my life. Oh man, I just if I could only do that every day, what I'm living the dream. No, nobody, you know, nobody, but the bigger thing is the pain doesn't go anywhere. It just stacks.
Yeah.
And so not thinking about it or avoiding it or numbing out to it, none of that actually makes the pain go away. So the better question is, what is holding on to this costing me? What is it costing me? What kind of relationships could I be enjoying instead of where things are now? How much freedom could I be experiencing in and living in versus how I feel now? How could I show up differently in my life than I show up now in whatever capacity, right? And so it's really I think a better question of asking, what is it costing me by
Mm,
staying and holding on to this rather than why bring it up, when you just want to not think about it. And it makes, I mean, but it makes sense. It's a good question. I mean, like, I think we all like think that, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to think about painful stuff. I've built my whole life around not feeling it, but
yeah.
it costs us.
Yes. And I think there is one more question over here. Um, okay, hold on. I take my glasses off because I don't want to get glare, but okay. Oh, this is awesome. So Brenda, thank you. So you offer guidance, but just enough to allow me to feel as though I were not free falling into the darkness. Tools offered a cushion. Yes, that is so good. I appreciate that. Yeah, it definitely can feel a little bit like what is happening because it's a process that's different from anything that I know that I had ever done before. And there is a little bit of a sense of, okay, I'm peeling off this. And really, it's so incredible how the process is. The question that I have here is, I'm afraid to deal with my grief.
Mm,
And sometimes it can feel like if I open that box up, and it's really very, very valid. It is very valid. A lot of times, especially if you've been told things like, or lived in a home where your grief wasn't allowed. I remember working with a young girl. She was in her 20s, and she came from a home that was very abusive. The dad was physically very abusive. And she said there was only one emotion allowed in our house, and that was anger. Everything else, you didn't show emotion at all. You would get smacked. You would literally. And so depending on the severity of what you know around emotion, it makes sense. It makes sense that there would be fear in dealing with that, or not knowing if I open this Pandora's box, will it ever end? Will it ever? And we're here to definitely tell you that it does. And quite it's quite quickly actually when you
yeah.
open that up because when you get a sense of being able to process it out loud. We say that when you give somebody the space to be heard with dignity and respect without being minimized or judged or fixed, any of those things, they get to go through the process of becoming emotionally complete. And it works. It works
Yeah.
every single time, every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it sounds very simple, but it is very powerful. And if you think about it, how many conversations do you have with people where there's one version or they're like, you know what you should do? Like, did I ask for that advice?
Right. Should.
Did I invite you to tell me what I should do?
Yeah.
It's like, and so we sort of learn these ways of like, oh, I'm just going to share something that won't invite that kind of response. And that's what passes for conversation. And unfortunately, a lot of this is like we're not good at giving people safety in conversation. And so as a result, there's very, very, very few places people can actually go and be completely honest and not have to worry about being judged or minimized or compared to something else or have to deal with unsolicited advice they never asked for.
Yeah.
It's rare. It's actually really rare when you think about it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And Monique wrote Pandora's box. I stuffed it until it exploded. Yes. And that is another thing. We will either explode outwardly or we will implode.
Yeah.
And it is unresolved grief is under almost all addictions, almost all self-sabotaging behaviors. And it's a very powerful thing. If you are in recovery, I always say, if and you're not dealing with your unresolved grief, you're missing a huge part of
Mhm.
recovery
Yeah.
because it's really core. It's underneath. It's underneath all of those things. And we love sharing about this because we know the power and we're so grateful for each and one of you that's here. If
Yeah.
seriously, if you want, you guys will get our links. Our site is called freedomfromgrief.com and we have our links there as well. But if you want to learn more, we have no problem getting on a call and
Yeah.
talking about and specifically to what you're dealing with, what you're facing
Yeah.
if there is a transition or a loss or a grief. And sometimes it can be from childhood.
Yeah.
We also believe, which will tell you, time does not heal. So it could be something from 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It is gonna help.
I always think about that client that woman that came up to you after you're talking and she lost her husband like 30 years ago and she just lost it like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, wow,
yeah. It's right under. So
just
it's
right
very,
under the
very
surface.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yes, and we love that. So we want to thank you for being with us tonight. It literally,
Yeah.
really, truly has been an honor to have this conversation with you. And we just want to remind you that you don't have to navigate transitions alone. We're here, and when you're ready, we'd love to walk alongside you. So we want to wish you a very, very blessed evening. Take care of yourself and know that healing is possible. Remember that you are standing on the edge of a brand new season, and we would love to do anything possible to help you embrace it fully and get the most out of it. So
Yeah.
we love and we look forward to connecting with you again.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much. Thank you, Monique.
Thank
Put
you.
our
Yeah.
link up there. Thank you so much, Monique. Yes, and everybody take good care, and we
Yeah.
are here anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.